Is there objection?
Mr. President,
Senator from Kentucky.
reserving the right to object. I lived for 4 months in Asheville, worked at the VA hospital, still have fond feelings for Western North Carolina. I have an uncle who lives just up the road from Asheville. I know about the devastation. One of my best friends from my wedding lives in Asheville as well. But the thing is the reason why we won't do this in a responsible way is because the Senate voted to send all your money to Ukraine. I mean, they voted to send $200 billion to Ukraine. I've been all over the mountains of Appalachia. When I ask people, would you rather that your senators take care of you here in Asheville or here in Pikeville, here in Appalachia, would you rather them send your money to Ukraine? I don't get anybody wanting to send a penny to Ukraine. Look, you can have all kinds of sympathy in the world for Ukraine, hostility towards Russia being the aggressor nation, but we don't have the money. We're $2 trillion in the hole. Interest this year is going to be $1 trillion. And as far as passing this, I'm willing to let it pass today. He's going to object to passing his own bill today simply because it gets paid for. How crazy is that? Not even let the other side object to it. He's going to object to his own bill. I'm willing to let the bill pass, but take some of the fluff and boondoggle subsidies from the Green New Deal and put it into here. The money's sitting here. We put it into here for disasters. We help Asheville today. Oh, no, it's not the time nor the place to pay for things. The question before the Senate is whether on behalf of the American people, we should borrow and spend an additional $810 million for small business loans. You know who gets small business loans right now? Ukraine. We're funding, 60 Minutes did a special on this, funding a purse and dress store in Ukraine. We fund the Ukrainian government pensions. Look, half of our state governments are short in pensions. Our U.S. government is short in pensions, and we're funding them in Ukraine. So some of the same people who want this immediately now, we don't want to pay for it, are happy to pay for crap all over Ukraine, including government salaries and pensions and small business loans to Ukraine. You know what? The job of legislators is to make decisions, to set priorities. We don't have an infinite amount of money, but we do have enough money to take care of them in Asheville and in Virginia. Simply pay for it. But realize the people assembled will object to their own bill today. I'm offering their bill. All we got to do is take some money that's laying around in a pot of money, Green New Deal, boondoggle money going to big corporations, and put it in for disaster. We can do that today. You still want to subsidize green energy, come back and do that next year. Pay for it now. We don't have to borrow hundreds of millions of dollars to bail this program out. But Congress has a habit of refusing to do what you and I would do if faced with a new and large expense. Congress refuses to cut elsewhere, even when saying yes to every new spending proposal and programs that has led to record high inflation. Americans have been forced to learn the hard way that they are the ones who have to pay for Congress's addiction to spending. And so I offer a fiscally responsible path to pay for the bill. Spare Americans from increasing the hidden tax of inflation. My amendment would rescind $810 million from the Department of Energy's boondoggle green new energy deals. It's a $4.75 billion program that has had repeated bankruptcies in it previously. It's absurd to force taxpayers to subsidize rich companies with vast resources of their own to gamble on energy projects that the private sector finds too risky. And actually, it should be about priorities. The people in Asheville or the Green New Deal? No, this is the best time to put them in contrast, not some other time when people are not hurting, when people can't see the contrast. Everybody in Asheville should wake up today and find out their senators are going to reject the disaster money because it's paid for. That's it. They're going to reject taking it from the Green New Deal boondoggle and sending it to Appalachia. It can go today. It can go in 10 minutes. I approve of the money. Just take it from somewhere where it's being wasted. Ideally, I'd take it from Ukraine, but that's not available right now. But a lot of the money went to Ukraine also. A 2015 report from the Government Accountability Office found that when 5 companies defaulted on these Green New Deal loans, the government, the taxpayers, lost $800 million. It's not a good program to begin with, but it's an easy place to go looking for something that is more important, like the people of Asheville and North Carolina. This money would have nearly covered today's disaster loan funding, but was needlessly squandered previously. But there's still money in the fund today. I offered this identical amendment to pay for another bill a month ago, and every Republican voted for it. So I don't understand why Republicans would rise today and object to a pay-for they all voted for last month. If the Small Business Administration must have this additional money, the least we can do is respect the taxpayers and act as good stewards for their money. Therefore, I ask the senator to modify his request to include my amendment, which is at the desk. This would allow the bill to pass if my amendment is attached to it. The amendment be considered and agreed to. The bill as further amended be agreed to, and that the motions to consider be considered made and laid upon the table.
Does
Mr.
the
President.
senator shall modify his request? Senator from North Carolina.
Reserving the right to object, Mr. President. I was wondering if the gentleman from Kentucky would yield for 2 questions. And then I'd like to speak on the...
Does the senator from Kentucky yield?
I think I know the answer to this, Senator Paul, but I just wanted to confirm it. Do you recall how you voted on the PACT Act?
I don't think we have an objection. You know, I've asked for a unanimous consent.
I'd
Either
ask-
objects or he doesn't object.
Does the senator from Kentucky yield?
I thought
I
he
don't
did,
have
Mr.
the
President. I
floor. I've
misunderstood.
made a motion.
And I've reserved the right to object to that motion.
Does
and
the
I've
senator from
subsequently
North
asked the
Carolina
chair-
reject to the
I've
modification?
subsequently asked the chair if the
You've got to
gentleman from
respond to the
Kentucky would
motion.
yield to a
I've made a
request.
motion to pass your bill. You need to respond.
Order in the Senate. This is not debatable. The senator from Kentucky has not agreed to yield.
Then,
Senator from North
Mr.
Carolina.
President, reserving the right to object. The question I would have asked him is how he voted on the PACT Act. I don't know the answer to it. I think he voted against it. I'm not sure. The other question I was going to ask him, has he ever voted for a disaster supplemental that wasn't offset? Those were the 2 questions I was going to ask. I'll find it out later on. Look, our state motto is esse quam videre. It says to be rather than to seem. This is a disingenuous offer to amend my bill. Let me tell you why. Maybe it'll even be a fundraising campaign later this week. I'm fighting to dismantle the Green New Deal, and Till has objected to doing that today. This bill, if it got amended, has no prayer. I came to the Senate to make a difference, not to make a point. I get the point. There are a lot of things in the Inflation Reduction Act and the Green New Deal that need to be clawed back, and I look forward to, under President Trump's leadership, having that vote. I assume that Senator Paul knows how to count votes. He has to know that he doesn't have the votes to get this bill done if it's amended. To be rather than to seem. I'm focused on getting North Carolina back on track and not playing a game on this Senate floor. I'm going to object to this, Mr. President, in a minute because it's a game. We never fund disaster supplementals because we know that people are hurting. You take that case to Ukraine, to Asheville. You take it to Burnsville. You take it to Banner Elk. You take it to Cashiers, Senator Paul, and I'll go with you. And I'll see if they're as worried about that or if they're just worried about making sure that their families have a place to live and their businesses have a chance to survive. Mr. President, I object.
Objection is heard to the modification. Is there objection to the original request?
Reserving the right to object.
Senator from Kentucky.
The insinuation is made that there's a better time. We'll vote on this at another time. Maybe, you know, young men, it's just not the time. It's not the time nor the place. Well, actually, it is the time or the place. And the only vote against the disaster bill today will be the senator from North Carolina. He will today vote to kill the disaster aid. Now, he says, well, there aren't enough votes. We won't know because he's objecting. He isn't allowing the Democrats to object because they always object to anything that's paid for. But by his objection, he's not allowing the system to play out. If Democrats want to object, we'll find out that they're opposed to pay-fors, and we'll further the definition of who's for not paying for stuff and who is. But to say that we as Republicans are never for paying for disaster relief is to say that we are equally, or the Republicans who are for this, are equally complicit in the accumulation of $35 trillion worth of debt. So no matter how good the cause is, I don't care whether there's a fire or a tornado or a flood or rain or all the damage, it all should be paid for. It's the responsible thing to do no matter how terrible the disaster is. And it's not like I'm saying, well, let's just wait 2 years until we can earn enough money to pay for Asheville. We have the money. We're a rich country. It's sitting here. I just simply ask, take it from something here that is a wasteful corporate bailout to green energy companies and put it over here. But the fact that the senator from North Carolina is going to kill his own bill today, he's going to vote not to allow it to be heard. We have no idea whether there are enough votes or not. He can say there's not enough votes, but he's now the vote that stops the spending from getting easy passage. What we're going through is a procedure of easy passage. This is allowing things not to go to committee, not to be deliberated, but to easily pass. And I'm in favor of doing that because of the emergency, because of the tragedy. We allow this to easily pass by simply taking some money from a pile of money over here. If he weren't to object and the Democrats don't stand up, it passes like this. But then it's not on me, it's on them. They decide that they don't want to pay for anything and disasters should never be paid for. Well, that's how we have this disaster of a $35 trillion debt, because nobody pays for anything. Nobody cares. It's never the right time. Well, now is the right time. And so if you want easy passage, you have to hear what the problems we face are. So I object.
Objection is
President.
heard. Senator from North Carolina.